explainable AI. Why should AI have to be explainable? Only if there are humans in the loop. Right? And in fact, the last time around expert systems were big, actually one of the biggest success stories of expert systems was medicine. And they would need to generate explanations. And they talked about how to provide explanations that people will feel comfortable in taking. Okay? And after that, we stopped thinking about it. But now we are again thinking about it because we are talking about AI systems working in tandem with humans. And humans do care about not just are you right? So there is this statement that I keep repeating in my research that there is this thing that justice should not only be done, but should be seen to be done. It's not enough for you to be right. If it's not enough for your doctor to be right, you should feel warm and fuzzy that they are right. And the sad part, honestly, is there can be doctors who have extremely good bedside manners, and they are dumb as a brick in terms of actually doing diagnosis. And there are doctors one of whom actually was a supremely gifted surgeon who did open heart surgery on my dad last summer. Amazingly low bedside manners. Amazingly. Okay. So in some sense, basically most people would have gone to the bad surgeons because this guy would not explain anything. In fact, after the operation, we were standing outside. He came and basically said, okay, so it's done. Actually, there were more problems, but we had to take double the time. Any questions? He is right. And I'm happy that we went with him. But we have this innate need for asking why. And this can be used against us. You can have charlatan doctors who will give you warm and fuzzy explanations when they are actually bad diagnosticians. And so you can have AI systems which will do the same thing. It's actually a problem on our side too. And the other very interesting thing about explanations is what is an explanation. Okay, if you ask me something, and so suppose I tell you something about some fact in calculus, you are like a high school student, I tell you some fact in calculus, you say why, and I give a theory, an explanation of why in terms of measure theory, which you tend to learn in graduate school. It's correct explanation. Doesn't help you one bit. So in some sense, I have to provide you explanations that you will understand. Explanation is not in terms of my model or even the correct model, but is in terms of the model of the world you have. Which means I need to understand my customer. Which means the AI system needs to understand who it is giving the explanation to. If it is giving an explanation to another physician as to why it came up with this diagnosis, it should throw in all these fancy words about lymphoma and all that stuff. And if it asks if you are a bozo who just went and say, why do you think? It's overall good for you. You know, people like you tend to have this kind of a problem with 70% of the time, and it generally is good for you, and you're happy. It looks, and especially if you say it in a sweet voice, you'll believe it. Okay, but these are very different explanations. But in general, that sort of, unfortunately or fortunately, you came to a point that I care about in research terms, and I think it's becoming increasingly important. You can already have doctors, medical systems, which have much higher accuracy than humans. All humans do is human doctors will then first learn to trust this system, and once they trust it, they just come and sugarcoat the diagnosis to you. So I'm just the middleman or a middlewoman. Okay, the real diagnosis is done by the machine, but the machine doesn't know how to say it nicely. So humans will provide the nicely part. At some point of time, machines will do that too, and then we are in trouble. But that's where the doctor's stuff comes. So the part that I particularly don't care about, such as bedside manners, is the one thing that's keeping medical profession. And bedside manners are just being human. Okay? And that's stuff that matters, essentially. Okay? Yes?
So AI and unemployment is a good thing then, right? It's not a bad thing.
Look, I'm at the end of my employment, so whatever you say. If you want to have jobs, you don't want to have jobs. No, it's a hard question. I'm not.
Products of the jobs. I don't need the job. Someone does my job for me. I can just chill at home.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, many people think so, but they'll get bored to death. So one very interesting question. So I guess the other thing that keeps coming up is this UBI, Universal Basic Income, which if you really believe that machines are going to take over anyway, then all we need to do is give all of you a bunch of money so that you can buy like hamburgers and eat and hang around. To me, I don't know if you noticed it, the thing that I had in the very beginning, actually maybe I can show it to you in here, is another thing that I like very much, if I can get there. Oh, there, yeah. This one's Matrix, but there's a variation of this in Wall-E, the movie, Wall-E the movie, where this robot basically is taking over the Earth that the humans have completely destroyed, but all of the humans are in this other planet on some sort of a rodent humans on life support systems. If you like that kind of a life, good for you, it's coming for sure. If you don't like it, you want to make sure that you design a future where it's basically, cooperative rather than replace.
I think we'll be left with creative jobs, not repetitive jobs.
Again, this is a very fascinating discussion. I would be happy to hear what people think. In general, it's not clear that even that is the case. So I am both an optimist and a pessimist. Okay, I'm a general optimist that we can invent the future that we want. I am, however, not going to, if you specifically bring up a job and say, I don't think that would be replaced, I will argue with you that yes, it will be replaced. Okay, so if I can argue for every possible job in the world, then I guess I'm a pessimist in some sense. But that's the reality. So even creativity is sort of overrated. right? Because again, creativity is in the mind of the beholder. Right? And given that none of you are reading New Yorker, what are we talking about here? We can write a creative tweet. That's about it. And so at some point of time, we have already reduced the barriers to entry. Okay, we have 5 more minutes, so maybe we can have some other questions on this, and then we'll wind up picking up next class. Since I'm going to do it on Monday, I'm going to actually pick up where I'm leaving off. I'm not going to make you come to an extra class as well as watch a video before that. That seems like a cruel thing to do. So I'll just basically pick up from here and talk about agent types and environment types and search. But we still have 5 more minutes. I'm not going to lose that. So either you have questions or I'll start discussion.
Oh, that's a question.
Yes.
I work for an insurance company over the summer, an auto insurance company, and they're very well aware of the impending doom of self-driving cars changing the landscape of auto insurance. And so there's kind of constant rumors and talk about when that will happen. I'd love to hear when you believe the automated car phenomenon will take over. So
automated car phenomenon is very quickly going to happen. So between this guy and this guy, if you have I have this saying that if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. All you have is this picture, the entire lecture looks like this picture. But in this guy is Google X. Google basically is taking a very different view than Tesla. Okay, and so I think first of all, automated driving is going to be coming here very soon. Now the question is one of liability. That's a very interesting question. Tesla essentially says, since we put it in the small print that you are still responsible for all your problems, you will still, that's a much bigger question as to how to even make insurance. In fact, I'm surprised that Tesla drivers get insurance given that there's autopilot. I have no idea how this works. Okay. On the other hand, Google basically gave up on having a driver. Google car doesn't have a steering wheel. Okay, and they essentially say, we will backstop it. We are completely responsible. If our car fails, we are responsible. That's what elevator companies do. They don't say if the elevator fails, it must be because you pressed it wrong. Although you can say that brickyard elevators are pretty bad elevators and some things can go wrong based on the way you press it, they take full responsibility. And Google is basically saying it's just You just sit in, press the button, it'll go, and if there's a failure, Brin or Page will pay. Okay, and that's actually a cheaper, easier way, and I wouldn't be surprised, this is just me talking, I wouldn't be surprised if in foreseeable future, you would have lower insurance if you have an automated car, and you have higher insurance if you have a Tesla. And you probably deserve a higher insurance if you have a Tesla because you have too much money. But yes.
But there hasn't been an elevator accident that's killed anybody in something like 100 years.
Yeah.
How long do you think it'll take for the cars?
Well, I think it's a question of percentages, right? I mean, so again, as much as I think that the way Tesla did its rollout was irresponsible, in fact, their points are generally well taken. In fact, humans are not meant for driving. We are easily distractible. Okay, so if you were to do a large enough scale, it hasn't been done right now, but if you were to do a large enough scale controlled study, I wouldn't be surprised at all that if the results are that with automated driving, much fewer accidents happen, way much fewer accidents happen. It's just that we tend to somehow not know how to deal with an accident that is caused by a machine. A machine caused accident is more than 3,000 people dying because of bad driving by themselves. That's where we are right now. So that's more of a social problem on our part. But again, this is part of the discussion that I'm just like a sort of barely educated outsider. But this is the way we are screwing up the world in general because everybody, so one other thing that I'll tell you and then you get to go home is one other meeting that I was in, which if you look at my page, there's like too many crazy of these. So that existential threat noir, I was giving this talk at a law for emerging technologies, legal aspects of emerging technologies. We have a law school, we have Professor Gary Marchant, who actually used to be here, but now law school has shifted to ASU downtown. Those guys have been talking about legal issues as the technology progresses. And so they had a whole entire special section on what are we going to do with AI-caused accidents and AI-caused liabilities. But even before that, actually, the entire law is so much behind times that they're talking about situations such as if I sell you a completely simple, compared to like autonomous driving, a simple measuring device that measures certain cholesterol level or certain other level of your body and tries to inject additional medicines into your body to improve your condition. Now, FDA is the organization, Federal Drug Administration, I believe, Food and Drug Administration, I don't know why I said federal, they basically check whether or not such a entity can be sold to consumers. Now the thing is, they check it when you started selling it. But if this thing is learning, if this is being updated every day, what does it mean to license it? Now, one of the extremely interesting things is, you know FDA. You also know FAA, probably. FAA is Federal Aviation, right? Then there is NHTSA, NHTSA. Nobody has heard of it because they don't do anything. They are the people in charge of transportation. Those are the guys that Elon said, yeah, you should let us just put an autopilot, and they said, fine. Okay, so in fact, one of the very interesting things is all the big changes of AI being fielded are coming in areas where there is much less federal oversight. People will get into journalism, people will get into driving because NHTSA won't do anything. Very few people still get into medicine because FDA is not a pushover organization. You can take it any which way. You can say, if you're an entrepreneur, you'll say FDA is stopping progress. If you are one of these Luddites, you think, thank goodness, FDA is stopping progress. that won't be dying. So it turns out that those things wind up having a big difference as to which industries will go to take off. So one of the things for the autonomous driving, they talk about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 3 is completely autonomous. For medicine, they are very, very gingerly about doing anything automatic because FDA is extremely hard to get there. Okay, we'll stop here on Monday, 12 to 3.